So you are carrying out a targeted enforcement operation. Grandma's in the house. She's undocumented. She get arrested too?
It depends.
Which?
Let the judge decide.
America is for Americans and Americans only.
That was just a sampling of the folks who will implement Donald Trump's immigration policy beginning in 2 short months. And by immigration policy, we mean mass deportation. That last bit you heard, by the way, was declared by Trump's soon-to-be Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, at the recent Madison Square Garden rally for Trump, and echoes the slogan, Germany for Germans only, which was used by the Nazis during World War II. So, yeah, that's where America is circa 2024. As for Trump, we know very well where he stands. Earlier this month, conservative activist Tom Fitton posted on X/Twitter, quote, "Good news. Reports are the incoming Trump administration is prepared to declare a national emergency and will use military assets to reverse the Biden invasion through a mass deportation program." This morning, at 4 a.m. no less, Trump shared the post, seemingly confirming the plan by writing one word: true. The ACLU has filed a lawsuit seeking details on Trump's plan for mass deportation. ACLU Executive Director Anthony Romero released a statement late today and read in part, "As we ready litigation and create firewalls for freedom across blue states, we must also sound the alarm that what's on the horizon will change the very nature of American life for tens of millions of Americans." Joining me now to discuss is Maria Teresa Kumar, President and CEO of Voto Latino, and Bethany Lee, Executive Director of the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. Thank you so much for both of you joining me today. Bethany, I'll start with you. There is a report out today on NBC News talking about Asian deportation, specifically Chinese nationals who are in this country, people waiting for their immigration statuses to finally be sort of stabilized. The idea being that Donald Trump's deportations may not just start with what people perceive to be undocumented people standing outside looking for work. They will be targeting people who thought they were here under secure and legal means, and those will be snatched from under them by this new administration, and they'll be kicked out. How is that particularly sort of targeting the Asian American community?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And we know that the anti-China rhetoric under the first Trump administration was sky high. And we expect the same and more in this next Trump administration, unfortunately. And there are so many pressing concerns when we talk about immigration and undocumented immigration, undocumented immigrants in this country. And there are 3 things to us that are top of mind. First, we know that in the Asian American community, families will be torn apart. Right. We saw that under the first Trump administration. We saw that. We still remember the horrific scenes with kids crying in cages. And the reality is that when we talk about undocumented immigrants, we're not talking about the faraway border. We're talking about actually the fact that everyday Americans, everyone, is going to be impacted. Why? This is my second point. Undocumented immigrants and workers are the backbone of our economy. Whether we're talking about restaurants or nail salons or the grocery store, we interact with undocumented immigrants all the time. And so when we're talking about the economy, what we will see is that prices will go up. Grocery prices will go up because when Trump carries out his plan to deport millions of Americans, millions of undocumented immigrants, including Chinese communities, Southeast Asian communities, what that will mean is that we'll see that impacting our everyday lives. And third, what we're really paying attention to is those who are most vulnerable. Again, under the first Trump administration, what that meant for the Asian American community is that Cambodians, nearly overnight, found their deportation rates quadrupled. And so we're paying particular attention to many of these communities, not just Southeast Asians, but also undocumented Chinese people.
Thank you for that clarity, because I think it's also important that people recognize how many different kinds of people are affected by this. Maria Teresa, this is one thing that gets me, because we heard about this through the election, right? We heard various communities saying, I don't know if I think it's going to affect me. But I want you to talk about the idea that because we're dealing with this incoming administration, these people are not surgeons, they're axe murderers, okay? So they're going to be going to large communities and saying, hey, we want John Smith, we want Felipe Juarez, come downstairs, you're being deported. And the person's gonna come downstairs and say, you want Felipe C. Juarez or D. Juarez? Because that may or may not be me. I was born in Austin, Texas, right? They're not going to be particularly careful about who they're deporting. They're just going to grab people by name, right?
Not at all. Well, and let's really set the table. 1 in 25 American families has someone that is an undocumented loved one. They know someone. So this is not siloed, right? And this idea that they're going to go after criminals, well, technically, you cross the border. You have broken the law.
Right.
Are you a criminal? And the only way you could actually identify the criminals is by going to work sites. Right here, what you saw with Anthony Romero when he was flagging that blue states are starting to figure out, are mapping what they're going to do. It is no accident that Gavin Newsom, the governor of Massachusetts, the governor of Illinois, they're all discussing how they're going to safeguard their undocumented communities, their immigrant communities, because one of the things that we do know that Trump does very well is that he unleashes terror against his adversaries. And in this case, it's blue states. Do you recall when there were fires in California and he did not want to go ahead and provide relief to Californians because he said that they were blue and didn't vote for him?
Right.
That is the capricious nature of Donald Trump. And what we're also going to see is that the investment in beds and in detention camps, they're going to be in places like Texas. There's going to be a different source of revenue, and it's going to be basically indentured servitude, because what no one is saying is that under Trump, he didn't process people within 3 months. He held them in captivity. Right. And so there's this really, when we talk about the undocumented issue that we have, yes, it's workers, but he intends to incarcerate workers and basically pay them literally slave labor wages. If you look at how many folks in the detention system get paid $1, $2 a day for working, that is obscene. But some groups are going to make billions of dollars off the sweat and labor of broken families.
We are going to be talking about this for a long time, but we have to go from this segment. Maria Teresa Kumar and Bethany Lee, thank you all so much for that sobering look at what's going to be happening in the next 2 months.